Right, in today's lesson, we're going to look at how to examine a credit card statement. In front of us, we have a credit card statement for Susie Student, and you'll notice all kinds of headings and information posted on here. And then underneath, there is a list of questions that we have to answer. And all we really have to do is find the information on the credit card statement. So if you look around, if I start reading, it's her account number, it's her name, it's the date, it's when her payment is due. This is the credit line, sometimes called the credit limit. So her credit card has a $1,500 limit. Available credit, we'll figure out I'll show you how to figure that out. The new balance, remember that's her previous balance plus any interest. The minimum payment, how do you calculate her minimum payment? It's 5% of the new balance. So the new balance would be the previous balance plus interest. So you take 5% of that number, or $10, whichever is greater. And then down here, there's a bunch of dates, and these are the things that she purchased. So she did have make a payment of $258. She bought something at Gas and Go, and something at Gift Addict, and something at Computer Monitor, and it's something at Pizza Palace, and those are the amounts. Okay. You can see down here all of this information, and you can see her annual rate. So for purchases, she's being charged 36%, and for advances, cash advances, she's also being charged 36%. Anyone know what the previous balance is? Can you see that anywhere on the card? How about right here? What's the previous balance? $258. So that would be like her purchases from her last statement. What interest rate is charged on the card? See those? And it's the same for purchases and advances. Sometimes it's different. 36% is a ridiculous rate. I wouldn't want this card. Was there a payment made? She make any payments? How much? I see the payment right here. How much did she pay? $258. Is that good? Was it wise of her to pay $258? The answer is yes, because she paid off her previous balance. What does that mean? What does that mean as far as interest goes? There'd be zero interest. That's right. She paid off her previous balance, and she paid it off in full. Now, if she only paid $250, that would mean there'd be an unpaid balance of $8, but she'd be charged interest on the entire $258. So you got to be careful. How many purchases were made this month? In order to figure that out, I look in this section under activity. How many purchases do you see? Anyone? The number of purchases. So she got something at Gas and Go, something at Gift Addict, something at Computer Monitor, and something at Pizza Palace. 1, 2, 3, 4 purchases. What would her purchases total? How would I figure out? Add them all up. So let's do that. 3524 plus 6302 plus $697 and 78 cents plus 24.53. I've got $820.57. So that becomes her new balance. Why don't I have to add any interest to that? Because she paid off her previous balance. Okay? There's no interest being added to that. So 4 purchases that total $820.57. Remember how to figure out the minimum payment? It's 5% of the new balance. And the new balance is the $820.57. There's no interest to add to that. I'm going to go 0.05 times the 820.57. And I've got $41.03. Now, the bank's either going to charge me $41.03 or $10. If you're wondering where this information is coming from, we're looking right here. That's how the minimum payment is calculated. Now, would I pay $41.03 or $10? It says whichever is greater, whichever number is bigger. Which one's bigger, $41.03 or 10? Yeah, the bank's going to make me pay $41.03. So this is the amount I owe. So I could put the new balance at $820.57. I could put the minimum payment at $41.03. That's the due date. The minimum payment would be minimum payment due, $41.03. That's what I owe. Yep. Do you know how to figure out the credit available? If the limit's $1,500 and I spent $820, how much is left? Or how would I figure out how much is left? What would I do with the $1,500 and the $820? I'd have to subtract it. So 1,500 minus 820.57 gives me 679.43. That means I still have that much credit available to make further purchases. So I wouldn't be able to buy something worth $700. They ask me anything else? So the current amount due, that was the 820.57. Amount past due, there was nothing past due. Amount over credit line, I'm not over the credit line. The minimum payment was $41.03. There's nothing past due because I paid off my previous balance. How much interest will this customer have to pay? That's the last question. And Isabel told us the answer to that. If I pay off my previous balance, if I pay it off in full, how much interest do I owe? $0. All right. Flip over, next one, same idea. Minimum payment is still the same, 5% of your new balance or $10, whichever is greater. This time we're talking about John Doe. Okay, let's answer these questions. What was the previous balance? Anyone see it? Previous balance is right here. $168.80. What's the interest rate? Here's the annual rate. You've got 19.8% on purchases and 6.48% on advances. So for purchases, that's if you buy something with your credit card. What's an advance? That was a term we talked about yesterday. That's if you go to the bank machine and do what? Take money out. You put your credit card in the ATM and you take money out. They're going to charge you interest because it's coming off your credit card. It's not money that you earned. It's not your money. It's money that you're borrowing. People often make that mistake. A credit card is a loan. Your debit card, that's money you earned. That's money in your account. You're not going to get charged interest if you purchase something with your debit card. Was there a payment made by the credit card holder? What was the payment? See it right there. The payment was $168.80. Why is that good? Good move, John Doe. Because he paid off his previous balance in full. What does that mean? Saves him the interest, you bet. What will the new balance be? How do I figure out the new balance? What do I do with his purchases? This is the new balance. I add those numbers up. 14.83 plus 30.55 plus 27.50 plus 12.26, and I'm adding $40.10. It's $125.24. That's the new balance. And it says it right here. Look, I could have found it right there. That's the current amount due. So what will the new balance be? 125.24. I don't have to add any interest to that because there is no unpaid balance. If you think of your questions from yesterday, they started with an unpaid balance. And then we multiply that by the interest rate. So not 0.198. And then we multiplied it by the time. Okay. How long was it unpaid for? Well, these ones are paid. All right. He made purchases of $168.80 last month, but he paid it off. So no interest. What else does it want to know? What's the available credit? How do I figure that out? I go to the credit limit, which is $1,200, and I subtract the purchases or the new balance. Okay, and that's going to give me 76 cents. $1,074.76. That's how much credit is available. Make sure you know how to do that calculation. Take the credit limit, subtract the new balance. That's how much you have left to spend. So $1,074.76. How's the minimum payment calculated and what is it? So it's 5% of the new balance or $10, whichever is greater. 5% is a decimal, 0.05. Of means multiply. New balance is 125.24. 5% of 125 is going to be less than $10. I know that. And it gives me $6 and 26 cents. So which one will they charge me? This amount or this amount? $10. Okay. So just get familiar with reading the credit card statement. Yes?
Why is it the more expensive?
Because the bank's always going to charge you more. The bank wants to make as much money as possible. Okay. And it says that right here in the fine print. So the minimum payment is 5%. Make a little note of the new balance. So the new balance is your unpaid balance plus interest. So there is no interest on this statement. But see how it says this line right here? Whichever is greater. So that means look at these two numbers, 6.26 or $10, and the bank's going to make you pay the bigger one. Fair? All right, that's it. That's all we got today. You're free and clear to go to work on your little sheet.